So welcome. My name is Margaret Fisher. I'm one of the many organizers of the Student Peace Awards of Fairfax County. We're especially glad to be able to gather again in this beautiful space when a month ago it wasn't at all clear that we would be able to do that. But just as the threat of COVID seems to be subsiding, the need for peacemakers has only increased. So I would like to invite you all now into a moment of silence in remembrance of the many people suffering the terrible reality of wars around the world. Thank you. Every October, we ask each high school in Fairfax County to choose one recipient who has made a substantial contribution to peacemaking. This is no easy task, as there are often many candidates. Your schools chose you as students who exemplify the creative thinking and the dedication that it takes to create a peaceful world. Few of you, if any, had an award in mind or even peacemaking in mind. You simply recognized a problem and got to work to solve it, each in your own way. May we all follow in your example. In appreciation, we have a check for each of you, and in addition, we'll be sending $100 in your name to an organization chosen by you whose values are consistent with those of the Student Peace Awards. We're going to start with some thanks and with some introductions of some of our guests, two of whom will also be saying a few words. I will then invite you each to stand up in front with our special guests while I read a couple sentences about you. We won't be shaking hands, but that doesn't mean we don't love you. While I'm doing that, please turn around and face the photographer. After that, there are 24 recipients, so that'll be a little while. After that, we'll have a guest speaker, Kirsten DeMello. And then finally, we'll have a group picture. So then after that, we'll be done, but please stick around and chat with us. We weren't sure whether taking masks off would be safe, so we're not serving food, but we do have cookies for everyone to take on the road with you. Everyone has cookies. So for any of you who feel comfortable doing so, it seems reasonable to take your mask off while you're having your pictures taken or while giving a talk. We have a book for each of you called Sweet Fruit from the Bitter Tree, a collection of true stories of ordinary people who suddenly found themselves in dangerous situations and who managed to get out of it without resorting to violence. It's really an amazingly good read. For the past several years, the author Mark Andreas and his publisher have donated signed copies for us to give you. Now, the box with most of them actually did not arrive in time, so we have enough for some of you, but if you're in a school that has a group or a pair of people as recipients, you're going to get your books later. I would like to extend our thanks to a few people. First, we're always ever grateful to our friends from the First Church of Christ Scientists who arranged for us to use this community center for our reception. And we have endless thanks to all our volunteers and the 18 sponsoring organizations who make this program possible. Thank you to all of you for coming today to celebrate the accomplishments of these students. And a special thanks to the school staff members who go above and beyond every day at school and then come here in support of their students. So if you're one of those school staff members, please stand so we can acknowledge you. We're extremely honored that several members of our school board are here with us today. Could you please each stand as I name you? Karen Corbett Sanders. Karen Corbett Sanders represents the Mount Vernon District and has experience in international business and community advocacy for healthcare and education issues. Rajna Sizemore-Heiser Rajna Sizemore-Heiser is a member-at-large and the current vice chair of the school board. She is a college professor, lawyer, and a disability justice advocate. Abrar Amesh was elected in 2018. She's a member-at-large and the youngest person ever elected to the school board, and most notably, was herself a recipient of, in 2012, of the Student Peace Awards of Fairfax County. Welcome back, Abrar. And Laura Jane Cohen. Laura Jane Cohen has represented the Springfield District since 2019, with experience working as a teacher, an outreach director for a nonprofit, and a shop owner. So I'd now like to call up first Rajna Sizemore-Heiser to speak on behalf of the school board, and then Abrar Amesh to say a few words as a former Student Peace Awards recipient.
Thank you so much. I am so honored to be here today to speak on behalf of my colleagues and the entire Fairfax County School Board. Thank you to my colleagues, Karen Corbett-Sanders, Abrar Amesh, and Laura Jane Cohen for being here today. And I know the rest of my colleagues wanted to be here today and want to extend their deep honor and gratitude for the work that you do to bring peace to our community. The Peace Awards website, when I checked it out, has many inspiring quotes. But the one that spoke to me is the one from Eleanor Roosevelt, when she said, "It isn't enough to talk about peace. One must believe in it, and it isn't enough to believe in it. One must work at it." The students sitting here today, our bright future that I see before me, you all know this because you didn't just talk about it, you didn't just believe in it, you worked for peace, and while working for peace, you inspired others to do the work too. Thank you for inspiring others, for doing the work, for walking the walk, not just talking the talk. Thank you to the teachers and the families who have brought these students the knowledge, the skills, and empowered them to work for peace in our community. Without you, they would not be able to do what they do. So students, take a look at your families and your supporters and just kind of give a wave of thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. It's always the people who are behind us, who support us, who allow us to be our best. And sitting before me are our best peacemakers and the best hope for our future going forward. Especially now. Our world has been in conflict and division. We've seen this locally at the school level. If you come to one of our meetings, you'll see it. We've seen it at the state level and all the way internationally with the war in Ukraine and other places around the world. We see it in the trauma by which people who have lived under a global pandemic interact with each other. Too often, the rhetoric that seems to dominate our world is one of anger, of divisiveness. Too often, the interactions we have with each other seem to be fueled by anger, instead of fueled by a desire to bring and unite. That is why I'm so grateful that you all are here through a desire to unite, to bring peace to this anger. Some of you have worked with your school communities to make sure all students are included, are welcomed, are accepted. You have brought peace to your school community. Some of you have organized students to help people in their community, whether it's in hospitals, nursing homes, people with disabilities, senior citizens, or recently arrived Afghan citizens. You have worked to bring peace to your community. And others have found a way to educate your fellow students about important issues around climate change, gun violence, human rights abuses, education around the world, racism, safe relationship, equal rights, and so much more. You have brought knowledge, and through knowledge, you have brought peace. And finally, there are those who help people around the world, including in Ethiopia, Lebanon, Sierra Leone, Iraq, and Sudan. You are the global citizens that are bringing peace to the world. All of you exemplify the FCPS promise and FCPS portrait of a graduate skills. All of you have shown us, your parents, your teachers, your school board members, what it means to be an ethical and global citizen through your creative ways to address local and global issues, through your desire to bring peace to a community that is so divided. The common thread in your work is bringing people together to better your world, to bringing light and knowledge, love and support. Because that is what we need today. We need light, we need knowledge, we need love, we need support, and we need unity to bring us peace. Thank you to our students for showing us, for guiding us, for leading that work and bringing that unity and bringing us all peace when we so need it. Please keep being a shining light in this world. Please keep bringing peace to this world. We need it. We count on you. We hope you can bring us a more peaceful future. Thank you.
Good afternoon, students, families, staff of the Virginia Peace Award, Fairfax County Peace Awards. It's a pleasure and honor, really, to be with all of you. I want to hear it for our students one more time. In reading your exceptional accomplishments, I could not help but join you all today, and my colleagues and I were just chatting about how important this is, especially this year. The reality is, unfortunately, we have seen division over so many conversations. Should we wear masks? Should we not wear masks? We had a summer where there was a racial reckoning in our country, talking about Black Lives Matter and coming to understand the realities that so many of us face, but almost in silos and in different realities across this country. We've had conversations about people's anxiety and mental health and how it's now more real than it ever has been after a tough 2 years. Our economy has transformed and changed, and families now find themselves reconsidering reality as we've known it. And all of these are challenges that have happened and have put us in a place today where perhaps emotionally we are charged, perhaps we don't know how to heal our differences and reconcile the different worldviews and walks of life that we find to be familiar. Because the realities are that we all come from different homes and different backgrounds, right? We might not come from the same race. We may have grown up in different socioeconomic conditions. We may have different values and faith beliefs. But we're here today because we all honor a common value. And that's that we want to see the world be a better place. We want to embrace all of humanity. And that you all have demonstrated through your action is possible. And that's the work of healing our society that is so essential, that you all have been starting and have continued to clearly prove yourselves in being leaders and champions of in the community. And it's not just platitudes. Today you're gonna get this honor, you're gonna move on. Many of you are planning for post-secondary and what steps are next. And I'm very thrilled to see some of you who I've worked with before in the audience. But I want you to take this on as a life mission. And when I say this, when we look to the Ukraine, when we look to what was happening in Afghanistan and various crises across the world, many that we know about, but so many that we don't, that doesn't happen overnight. It's not just the news story that we hear and we can't fathom how we got there. That reality, the reality as we know it, just like it was in the past 2 years, can be swept from under us at any moment if we're not able to have a society and build a community that is able to heal past wounds and that is able to see the humanity in one another. And often that requires courageous conversations. Sometimes we're not going to agree. But to be able to sit with the discomfort of that disagreement and to understand one another through radical empathy that allows us to move forward and center that humanity that binds us all together above all else. That's what you all have demonstrated through your work. That's what you all have been taking the steps to show the broader community. And that's what I hope you take on to be that life mission of yours as you continue through college, if that's your preferred path, through whatever other opportunities you take, and inspiring others around you to maintain that. Because no matter what, there will be turbulence, there will be difficulty. Sometimes in the disagreement, it can even get personal, and it can get really hard to understand one another where we're coming from such different places. But we need you in leading forward again and reminding all of us that Our common humanity is what binds us together, that it's so much stronger and more powerful, that the experience of mourning a loved one's loss, or going through a pandemic together, or experiencing a heartbreak, that those are the human bonds that make us share so much more than the outward things that may appear to be different amongst us. So I hope that through that we can also internalize the fact that every one of our struggles is collectively personal. That perhaps one day it's your journey and your struggle, but another it might be that of someone else. And that our collective mission and our collective goal in being principled leaders, ones with integrity and a moral compass, who are leading us forward to build a better future, will always remember that common goal of peace, of building and healing, of acknowledging, validating, recognizing, and growing from our experiences and learning from one another, even when it's tremendously uncomfortable, so that we can move forward in a way that does bring us towards peace and avoids the realities of how things bubble up at times to lead to what we could never have imagined in our community. So congratulations again to our students. I'm incredibly proud of you all, and I look forward to, I'm going to be counting on you for the next generation to continue building in our community in ways that move us forward. So thank you all, and thank you to the organizers who clearly have a tremendous vision in elevating the importance of initiatives like these.
Thank you, Rasha and Abrar. Okay, so now I will be reading just a little bit about everyone. I just want to point out that there is much, much more to learn about our recipients on our website. We have a little QR code. You can find them that way. And I had to summarize it. I did the best I could. Sorry if I left anything out that was important. So we're going to start with Annandale High School and go in alphabetical order by school. So Jewel, could you please come on up, and would you like to stand up there? So if you maybe arrange yourselves with two on either side, perhaps. So Jewel Coulter has volunteered for the National Korean American Service and Education Consortium, which organizes Korean and Asian Americans to achieve social, economic, and racial justice. She also partnered with 2021 Peace Awards recipient Jimmy Lee to create the Annandale High School Equity Team. She has served as a student equity ambassador leader for the school division, working with students across Fairfax County to increase equity in schools. The equity team that they have established at Annandale was replicated across the division. Okay, next from Centerville High School, we have Safal Joshi, Dante Bao, Hayden Wan, and Brandon Lay Eichholt. These four students are members of STAR, Students Together Assisting Refugees. The Centerville High School chapter of STAR is dedicated to helping refugees realize happy and successful lives in their newly adopted communities. The students have been raising money to purchase welcome packages for refugees coming to the greater metropolitan area. Other activities include a winter coat drive, a talent show fundraiser, and letters of hope postcards written to overseas refugees. As part of their effort to raise awareness of what it means to be a refugee, they plan to invite refugees to come and speak with students, share their experiences, and answer student questions. Thank you all. From Chantilly High School, Zalala Mamat. Zalala Mamat's extended family has suffered under China's policy of human rights abuses directed at the Uyghur people. As a freshman, Zalala organized and led an optional assembly to educate students who were shocked to learn that in this day and age, people were being sent to concentration camps in other parts of the world. As a sophomore, Zalala founded a human rights club at Chantilly High School that promotes activism and education on human rights issues. Outside of school, Zalala founded a nonprofit, United Uyghur Youth, to spread awareness about the Uyghur human rights crisis, preserving Uyghur culture, and empowering Uyghur youth. She has organized several demonstrations and protests about human rights abuses, and has also organized and raised more than $1,500 for UUY through a t-shirt campaign to fund future demonstrations and protests. From Edison High School, Rania Ali. Rania Ali has raised money for and worked at the Khartoum Cheshire Home, a rehabilitation center for disabled children in Sudan. She updated and translated the home's website into Arabic to help members of the Sudanese community access the information. Rania is an active member of Edison's Black Student Union and the Student Muslim Association. Last December, she joined other Fairfax County Public Schools students at Edison High School in One Fairfax, a peaceful protest to call attention to an incident of Islamophobia at another area high school. Thank you, Rania. From Fairfax High School, Alan Freitag. Freitag was nominated last year to represent his school in a new county program called Student Equity Ambassador Leaders. He believes that one of the best ways to promote peace and show respect for the gender and relationship choices of fellow students is by the day-to-day use of their self-selected inclusive pronouns, such as he, him, she, her, they, and their. He designed a simple short form for use in school that included prompts to indicate a student's pronoun preferences. He shared the newly designed form with a handful of teachers who adapted it to their needs and began using it in their classes. By the start of this school year, the form was successfully included in teachers' beginning of the year forms for his school. Students report feeling encouraged to see it widely used in many of their classes. Thank you, Alan. From Hayfield High School, Secondary School, Kiefer and Maya Yona. Maya Jonas and Kiefer responded to pandemic-related stress among students by creating a guided meditation group for Hayfield. The group has continued to meet online and as of February of this year had 32 participants, including 4 faculty members. Maya and Kiefer both believe that meditation helps achieve peace by promoting mindfulness and clearing the mind to allow for self-reflection and thoughts to be processed in a more positive and healthy manner. They believe those benefits don't stop when the meditation session is over, and that by adopting a more peaceful lifestyle, people will spread that inner peace throughout their community. Thank you. From Herndon High School, Miriam Abdel Akua. As a 7th grader, Miriam helped her older sister and 3 other Iraqi American girls to found the nonprofit Girls for Girls an independent organization with the mission to educate, empower, and provide opportunities to disadvantaged girls around the world. The group serves girls in Sierra Leone and in the Yazidi community of Iraq. Their most recent project, Letters of Love, provides the opportunity for American girls to write letters to girls in disadvantaged countries. A monetary donation, collected through their website and local fundraisers, is included with each letter. They raise money for supplies for a Sierra Leone orphanage and Skype with the girls in the orphanage and help them learn English. Also, in support of the Yazidi community, they promoted and participated in a candlelight vigil in front of the White House to honor Yazidi lives lost in conflict and war. From Justice High School, Justin Tettleman. Justice High School is one of 6 schools in Fairfax County Public Schools to implement the Restorative Justice Community Schools program. Because of Justin's advocacy, Justice is the only school in the county to launch a student-led youth pilot program. Justin serves as the lead student restorative ambassador. In this role, he facilitates student-led restorative circles within classrooms. Justin also has advocated for gender equity, economic accessibility, and increased diversity within the athletics department. He mentors other students and is an active member of the Fairfax County Human Rights Commission. Thank you, Justin. From King Abdullah Academy, Dima Osman. Dina Osman is the current CEO of Lead Peace, a Nova student-led organization with a mission to cultivate youth leaders and peace builders. Lead Peace sponsors online lectures and workshops through which students can learn from leaders in the field of peacemaking, peacekeeping, and conflict resolution. In June of 2020, Lead Peace held a virtual community dialogue to examine systemic racism, institutionalized racism, and the Black Lives Matter movement. Since joining Lead Peace, Dima has mentored 6 King Abdullah Academy students to become members of the Lead Peace team and encourage fellow students to learn leadership and peace-building skills, as well as conflict resolution to support peace within their own communities. A video about their work can be seen on YouTube. From Lake Braddock Secondary School, Bethel Tessera. Bethel Tessera took training through DoSomething.org, a nonprofit that supports young people engaging in volunteer, social change, and civil action campaigns. With another student, she devised a campaign called It's Not All in Your Head, to encourage high school students to seek help for mental health problems and to decrease stigma around this issue. They started with the idea that students are more likely to access resources if access is easy. Her team's work has developed into an online flyer that was downloaded 4,846 times by students across the nation. Bethel also co-wrote a paper detailing the challenges facing prisoners with mental illness, advocating for increased mental health awareness and interventions for those incarcerated, and sent it to her state senator. Thank you, Beth. From Langley High School, Caroline Martell. During her freshman year, Caroline Martel took training on advocacy through Team Enough, a national youth organization dedicated to ending gun violence. She has lobbied members of Congress and the state legislature, as well as a presidential candidate. She started a chapter at Langley High School of March for Our Lives, the student-led group initiated after Parkland in support of gun violence prevention legislation. She collaborated with her former civics teacher at Cooper Middle School to develop advocacy training webinars, and she is currently working on organizing a Langley High School club to educate students about activism. From Lewis High School, Marine Syed and Ayman Habib. The Lewis High School UNICEF Club supports education, advocacy, and events centered on a broad range of issues, including climate change, mental health awareness, women's empowerment, people with disabilities, and much more. I should mention that the recipient actually is the UNICEF Club, and Ayman and Marine are representing them. Club meetings include planned activities, video presentations, discussions, and Q&As with a different bi-weekly focus. In response to the stresses of online learning, they initiated a sticky note project, writing positive messages to teachers and to other students. They worked with the Key Club to hold a mug decorating contest and fundraiser for UNICEF's Water, Sanitation, and Hygiene project. The club also set up a conference with the Lewis Muslim Student Association on the oppression of Muslims in the United States and abroad. So thank you. At Madison High School, the recipient is the Junior Civitan Club, as represented here today by Layla Ibrahim, Kieran Warner, I'll just read all the names because I'm not sure who's here, Olivia Bell, Laura Gurton, Anika Gupta, Bella Mack, and Claire Shannon. Madison's Junior Civitan Club is associated with the National Junior Civitan International, which supports people with disabilities. In past years, this has primarily entailed sending cards and gift baskets to VA hospitals and nursing homes. This year, the club collected needed items for Afghan refugees. They found local businesses willing to house their donation bins and created posters to encourage all Madison students to participate. The effort was a success, and they were able to donate many necessities to Afghan refugees in the area. The club is currently working with other Madison High School clubs to participate in Project Linus, a national organization that makes blankets for ill, traumatized, and displaced children. From George Marshall High School, Maya Kanan. Maya started the Peace in the Middle East Club at Marshall High School her sophomore year. Now, with about 30 members of many ethnicities, the Peace in the Middle East Club meets regularly to learn about a variety of Middle Eastern countries. Maya prepares informational slideshows on each country, focusing on how conflict there is affecting children's lives. Recently, the club obtained the sponsorship of a local restaurant to help raise money for children in Lebanon. They were able to provide 5 teachers with remote learning supplies, increasing access to quality education. This past fall, they raised money for Afghani children's school supplies, distributing the money through the Save the Children Fund. The club is planning additional fundraising activities for this spring. Thank you. From McLean High School, Olivia Zhang. Olivia Zhang is the founder and CEO of the nonprofit organization Cancer Kids First, which has thousands of volunteers in chapters around the world sending toys, books, and care packages to over 50 pediatric hospitals. Olivia heads the management team with oversight over matters such as planning, policy, and finance. She manages their website, which includes milestones of achievement, awards, and a variety of events, including virtual movies, speakers, volunteer team building, and fundraising. Olivia is also the president of McLean's Student Government Association, where she launched the Be a Good Neighbor initiative, monthly service events such as a toy drive, a blood drive, and writing letters to the elderly. From Mount Vernon High School, Ava Belmont. As president of the Our Minds Matter Teen Advisory and of Mount Vernon High School's Our Minds Matter Club, Ava Belmont helps raise awareness of mental health issues. She leads meetings to discuss mental wellness, organizes awareness months, creates videos to decrease stigma around mental illness, and works to create an open dialogue regarding mental health at the school. She recently received a grant to fund a wellness room at Mount Vernon High School to create a safe space for students to relax and take a break during the day. Ava also serves as a representative with the Fairfax County Public Schools student-led mental health working group and has advocated for greater virtual support in schools for children and adolescents seeking mental health support. From Mountain View High School, Tariq Adalu. The war in Syria led Tariq Adalu to move to Lebanon, where he worked as a volunteer teacher and administration for LOYAC, a nonprofit organization that designs and develops programs which help support underprivileged and vulnerable communities. When Tariq started working for LOYAC, he packed and delivered food boxes to people living in refugee camps. After 2 months, he started teaching math to young students. This led to additional classes teaching Arabic and English, not just to children, but also to their parents, developing curricula for varying age groups. He also worked with adults to help develop their business schools. At Mountain View, Tariq voices his concern for human rights by publishing in the school newspaper, The Mirror. Topics he has written about include water scarcity, education for all, and terrorism around the world. Next is Oakton High School. I believe Sarah Body is unable to be here. Am I right? Yeah. I'm going to read about her accomplishments. Sarah Body founded a social justice club called Be the Change to create an environment for Oakton students to talk about topical issues of interest and inspire them to become community leaders and activists. The club began hosting regular meetings to discuss a variety of issues, including the prison industrial complex, LGBTQ rights, climate change, and racism within existing institutions, such as school systems, and the healthcare field. They also organized a food drive and collected clothing for the needy. Sarah attended a local protest in Vienna and delivered a speech to 200 people that day. She spoke about the stereotyping of young black children and what she and her brothers experience as African Americans, knowing that she doesn't want these things to happen to her own children in the future. Thank you, Sarah. From Quandah Road School, Owen Fuchs Dubuque. Owen is a member of Quandah Road's service club, Blossoming Beauties. She assisted with clothing and food drives, toy collections, hurricane relief, and their annual Thanksgiving outreaches. She is also the lead in the EFE, Education for Employment Road Cafe. She keeps their books, ensures that appropriate inventory is maintained, and keeps the cafe clean and sanitized. The goal of the Road Cafe is to teach students good work ethics and to provide them with job skills to enable them to earn internships at local businesses. As an active member of the LGBTQ+ community, she makes it a point to accept others. She is currently completing an internship at an animal hospital and has rescued many animals. Thank you, Rob. From Robinson Secondary, Andrea Agola. Andrea Agola founded a club at Robinson called READ, READ, Representation in English Allows for Dialogue, whose mission is to collaborate with English teachers to increase person of color representation in the English curriculum. The club's intention is to cultivate awareness of the importance of diversity and inclusion in education, and to inspire new perspectives on social issues and the experiences faced by the person of color community. Andrea also helped organize the Fairfax County chapter of Diversify Our Narrative, a national nonprofit organization that seeks to address the imbalances of materials taught in schools, especially in the areas of racial justice and history. Andrea started sharing her creative ideas before entering high school with an ongoing blog, Our Lives, A Different Kind of Crochet. The blog discusses culture, biographical stories, and the African diaspora, and includes her award-winning poem, Prolific. Thank you, Andrea. Okay, from South County High School, Niyad Asafal. Niyat Asafal volunteered at Amen Charitable Organization in Ethiopia, teaching math, physics, and English to grade school children at an orphanage. She believes strongly in civic action to address economic, social, and gender inequalities and discrimination, particularly concerning women, the elderly, and refugees. She broadcasts her own sit-down talk show, The Candid Hour, where she addresses and tackles uncomfortable topics within the Ethiopian community and the world. She also has been actively involved in the Model UN program at South County and became Secretary General of the club in her junior year. Thank you. Okay. From Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology, Damilola Owafusayo and Christopher Araya. Damilola and Christopher are active members of the Student Equity Coalition, a student organization whose mission is to affirm, empower, and elevate the diversity of TJ's school community. The Student Equity Coalition provides a forum for students to discuss issues, see other perspectives, and provide a voice for underrepresented groups while creating a closer-knit community among students whose families come from different countries, cultures, and religious backgrounds. Christopher is also the co-president of the Hispanic Community Club, through which he created Minority Mentors. Through podcasts and interviews, Christopher also advocates for Hispanic equity across Virginia. As president of TJ's Black Student Union, Damilola guided its members to join the Minority Mentors program alongside Hispanic Community Club members. This fostered cooperation between the two groups because they had similar goals: for upperclassmen to provide support to younger students. Damilola also represents TJ as one of Fairfax County's Student Equity Ambassador leaders. From West Potomac High School, Loza Marcos. Marcos raised money for gift packages for Ethiopian students with disabilities and volunteered last year at a hospital in Addis Ababa to assist and teach children with chronic disabilities and illnesses. She also served at a school for children with autism spectrum disorders, teaching math and English and assuring their access to clean water by purchasing and delivering bottled water to the students and their families. Her homeroom teacher, Alan Howe, noted that Loza's work in teaching and charity in both Ethiopia and in the Alexandria area reflect her generosity and eagerness to improve the lives of those around her. Thank you. And finally, from Woodson High School, V. Wynn. As a former Miss Northern Virginia Teen USA, V. Wynn volunteered for One Love Foundation, an organization that empowers young people from all backgrounds with the knowledge to identify and avoid abusive relationships. V has served as a teen ambassador, workshop facilitator, and regional social media team leader. She has spoken on many panels and served on One Love's Film Fellowship Youth Council, which selects recipients of grants to create feature films on relationship abuse for classroom use. V is determined to help others avoid, or if necessary, surmount relationship abuse. Have I forgotten anyone? No, that's a relief. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, so now I would like to introduce Kirsten DeMello, our keynote speaker. Kirsten has a rich and varied background in community-based peace building and dialogue education. She graduated from Eastern Mennonite University's Center for Justice and Peace Building with a master's in conflict transformation and restorative justice. For the past 15 years, Kirsten, along with her partner Merwin, has supported peace-building efforts alongside communities experiencing violence. Her work in Zimbabwe included facilitating workshops on dialogue for universities and helping to establish a national peace-building network. In Chicago, Illinois, Kirsten led restorative justice circles in schools and trained teachers in restorative approaches. From 2014 to 2020, Kirsten and Merwin served as peace advisors for Mennonite Central Committee with local partners in Afghanistan and later Bangladesh, weaving peace building into local education, agriculture, and livelihood initiatives. She has facilitated numerous workshops in several countries on conflict transformation, peace building, restorative justice, and trauma awareness. Currently, Kirsten is Program and Communications Coordinator for Mennonite Central Community in Washington, D.C., which is why we get to have her here. I've waited for years for her to come back to this country so she could speak to us. She lives in an intentional community and wholeheartedly grows vegetables at the Wangari Community Garden and the Dorothy Day Catholic Worker. Welcome, Kirsten.
I know what you all are thinking. You all are thinking about those cookies in the back. I know I am. What if peace does begin with you? How would you live your life if you knew your choices, your actions, your interactions were an essential part of peace? How would you live your life if peace does begin with you? 2 weeks ago, I was on my way to work. My office is not too far from the Capitol building in Washington, D.C., original home of the Piscataway people. I exited the Eastern Market Metro and walked on Pennsylvania Avenue heading east. As I approached 8th Street, something on the ground caught my eye. It was a puzzle piece, a lone piece to a puzzle. I immediately felt the pain of the puzzle doer, unable to complete the beautiful puzzle they had stooped over for endless hours, the final piece missing. I left that piece there with a kind of futile hope that it would be found by the right person. But that piece has lodged itself in my mind as I ponder the meaning of it. A puzzle piece on its own is unremarkable. We might see an interesting flash of color or a half of a letter or some eye and nose, a brick or the grayness of the sky. But fitted into the right spot, it comes alive and makes the picture complete. Is it something like our role or your role in peace building? First of all, that we may just be the missing puzzle piece, that each of us are essential in some way to the bigger picture of peace. Secondly, if we insist on going at it on our own, that bigger picture is never complete. But if we recognize how we intersect, how we belong to each other, how we need each other, and then link ourselves together, the pathway becomes more beautiful, more complete, and more possible. I will share with you today stories of peace builders, people like you who are living into these very questions. You, as recipients of this year's Peace Awards, have shared your stories. We've heard your stories and read them. For this, I am grateful. We needed to hear those stories. Hearing the ways that each of us are working for peace gives us encouragement, and we can begin to see our place in that bigger picture. And the possibility of creating something together emerges. I heard 4 themes in those stories, in your stories. Each story represents someone's pain, perhaps your own, or the suffering of someone close to you or miles away, suffering arising from inequity or systematic discrimination or negative stereotyping, from being driven from one's home country and settling into a new area, from struggles with mental health problems and the surrounding stigma, suffering arising from the underlying threat of gun violence in school, from being a child and having cancer, suffering from abusive relationships. Each of your story reveals a vision of justice and fairness in our relationships and in our institutions, such as schools. You understand the need for a society that's rooted in hospitality, deep hospitality, welcoming newcomers, widening and leveling that table, that place where decisions and policies are made so that all voices are heard. I also heard that out of that pain of what is and the vision of what could be, each of you acted. And there can be risks and fears in taking action. And I think each of you showed courage in the action that you took. The fourth underlying element that I felt in your stories is about that puzzle piece. The deep desire for belonging, for knowing that you are part of something far bigger than yourself. The desire for being alongside others in the suffering and in the creation of the change you envision. For companions in the journey, to share all the emotions that come with the path that you have chosen. The stories I will share now reflect those themes as well. The path of suffering, dreaming, acting, and belonging. A living into the question, What if peace does begin with me? I do not know the people of Ukraine, but this destruction at the hand of a powerful nation is familiar to me. As Russian convoys rolled into Ukraine at the end of February, I was reminded of Afghanistan, where I lived for several years, along with my life partner, Mervyn. In 1979, Soviet Union tanks rolled across the border into Afghanistan. After occupying it for 10 years, they accepted defeat and rolled their tanks back across the border and out of Afghanistan. In the years that followed, there was intense fighting between factions within Afghanistan. One of those factions, known as the Taliban, took power and ruled for 5 years before another powerful force entered the country with helicopters and jets loaded down with troops and military equipment. This time, it was the US, and the year was 2001. Last August, we watched as this force left Afghanistan with the same drama in which it arrived. Our time in Afghanistan was in the midst of those endless years of fighting between the Taliban, the US and foreign troops, along with the Afghan army, and the international extremist group known as ISIS, or Daesh. The fighting was characterized by this. Each spring, the Taliban would announce the start date of their spring offensive. Who would be the main targets, and what would be the mode of attack? Fighting would commence with losses and gains on all sides. The harsh winter would bring a lull, followed by another Taliban spring offensive. These were difficult days of dreaming. Mervyn and I encountered a group of Afghan youth dedicated to peace. Their pain, war was their reality since their birth. Their vision, a border-free world. Their action, to go up on the hills in Kabul and fly kites, not drones. To teach basic reading and math in a special Saturday afternoon school for children who were needed by their families to work on the streets selling chewing gum or cigarettes or phone cards or a place to take one's weight. The Afghan youth planted gardens. They brought together youth from all of the different ethnicities in Afghanistan. There's so many. They learned as much as they could about peace. They studied it together and taught what they learned to others. We provided a safe space for the youth to gather and share with each other about their pain, their dreams, their struggles. Every 2 weeks, we went to their simple center and set up toshak, or the cushions, on the floor and sat for an hour or two in a peace circle. In those peace circles, they choked up as they talked about friends lost in a recent explosion. They giggled as they shared about the funniest thing that happened to them. They listened as they read each other their poems about friendships and peace. And then we all drank green tea and ate biscuits together. Their center was a belonging for youth, many who were on the margins of Afghan society because of their poverty, their ethnicity, their religious sect, or their desire to make friends outside of their traditional circles. I remember the annual Peace Festival that they held in Kabul. At the end, the youth met on the stage dressed in white with these blue border-free scarves tied like sashes across their chest. They stood in a circle, and a young man in the center began to play the drum, slowly at first. The youth moved through the steps of an intricate traditional dance of unity and peace, bending low, rising up, clapping and twirling. The drum beat increased speed, and the dancers became a swirl of white and blue, an aching oneness for a country free of war, a world free of division. Several years earlier, I had witnessed a similar dance, this time by young people in a country strangled in the grip of a dictator. This dictator was once a freedom fighter and a revered hero. He helped to free the country from the oppression of colonialism, a situation similar to the apartheid system in South Africa. After becoming president of this newly independent country in 1980, this man violently squashed any attempts to replace him. That person was Robert Mugabe. The country, Zimbabwe, in the southern part of the continent of Africa. The young people I mentioned were members of a university dialogue club. I lived in Zimbabwe and worked at a local organization called the Center for Conflict Management and Transformation. My job was to be a support to the 3 university dialogue clubs spread out across the country, Bulawayo to the south, Harare to the north, and Gweru in the middle. I, along with colleagues Milton Marazda and Godfrey Gwande, traveled in a small pickup truck between the universities to visit with the students and hear how things were going. On one such trip, I joined the students in a 3-day workshop at a camp. In those 3 days, the dialogue group members shared stories of their lives, found places of commonality, and practiced skills in asking hard questions and listening deeply. Soon they would return to campus and begin dialoguing in earnest, moving from stories to analysis to action on issues such as sexual violence, discrimination, and political violence on their campuses. On the last evening, the students planned a cultural night, grilled meat, music, and dancing under the starry Zimbabwe sky. I had listened in during the day as the young people shared their challenges, the frustration of their country's economic collapse, so that whatever money their families had saved did not have any value. The anger at Mugabe's ruling party for instigating violence in their communities, the disruption to their studies as professors went on strikes after months of no salaries, their feelings of hopelessness. They were caught in a trap. They could not leave the country. They could not dream because they could not move in the direction of their dreams. How then to bring change if you cannot dream? What could they do? The music began playing in the large amphitheater. Oliver Mtukudzi, beloved Zimbabwe musician who wrote songs that reflected the struggle, sang, "Do you have to die to be a hero? Here, here." And other voices rang out through the speakers. The young bodies moved freely with the rhythm, giving themselves fully to the movement, allowing their suffering to flow out of them. I sat on the nearby stone steps, my mind swirled in a mix of emotions, sadness for their stranded dreams, anger at the perpetrators of violence in their young lives, and respect and awe as they dipped into a deep pool of hope and joy against all odds and danced it together into the energy and air around them. Fast forward to 2021, under a starry sky, but this time it was pre-dawn in the Appalachian Mountains of Virginia. 100 people slipped out of their tents and slid through the darkness to a waiting convoy of cars. I rose with them at 3 a.m. and made my way to my assigned vehicle. I joined this young, many identifying as queer and transgender, an Appalachian group to protest the construction of the Mountain Valley Pipeline. We were black, brown, indigenous, white. In the group were middle-aged activists and grandparents for environmental justice with their walking sticks and foldable chairs. We were a living witness to the coming together of the varied strands of justice, environmental and climate, racial, gender, and indigenous justice. Very interesting puzzle pieces coming together. The Appalachian Mountains were originally inhabited by the Yuchi and Cherokee people. Many of them were driven from that land systematically as newcomers came for a thirst for land. Calling the land empty and leaning on a Christian mandate and a gun, and helped by smallpox, they pushed and pushed to make the land theirs. But the indigenous youth were warriors and did not give in easily to this powerful dominating force. They struggled. I lift them up and honor their struggle to protect their communities and their way of life. That struggle continues for indigenous youth across this country. Now to protect precious water as oil leaks from pipes into running headwaters or through the layers of ancient rock deep into aquifers. In the Appalachian Mountains, the fragile limestone cannot endure the drilling and blasting required to lay the pipe into the earth. It is like an invasive surgery, carved into a sacred body through which to flow a certain poison. It was this surgery, already underway, that we were preparing to protest in those pre-dawn hours. The morning dove, still with nodding head tucked under warm wing, not yet ready to soothe life into a new day. We stood peacefully together as the eastern sky turned pink and the encouraging sun brightened our faces. We sang, and I would like to invite you all to sing with me in this call and response. So clear your throats, get ready, be strong and courageous. It goes like this. Forget your perfect offering, forget your perfect offering, just ring the bells that still can ring, just ring the bells that still can ring. There is a crack in everything, there is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in, that's how the light gets in. Forget your perfect offering, forget your perfect offering, just ring the bells that still can ring, just ring the bells that still can ring. That's how, there is a crack in everything, there is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in, that's how the light gets in. Thank you for singing that with me. My experience of Appalachia did not begin on that day. I spent much time as a young person in those mountains. I was lured into the ferny undergrowth by the call of the wood thrush. The dappling sun drew me in to lie on my back under the striped maple trees and study the patterns of leaf and light. I fell in love with those forests, birds, streams, and blue mountains. The construction of a pipeline across those delicate and beautiful places wounds me too. The pipeline construction workers could not get to the worksite that day. In the spirit of nonviolent civil disobedience, following in the model of Mahatma Gandhi and Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and many others, we said no to the pipeline and yes to the ways of living that protect water sources and living beings we share this planet with. We shut it down. But after several hours of our standing in the path of construction, the police announced that they would arrest us if we continued. We decided to walk off the site as a tight group, singing about the future that we envisioned. As we approached the line of police, in a sudden movement, they rushed in to block us, hands ready on weapons. 2 young leaders from our group stepped forward to negotiate with the police. Seconds felt like hours. Meanwhile, we sang. I looked into the eyes of the police officer in front of me. My stomach trembled and my voice shook. But then I felt a deep and powerful calm come over me. Could this be the feeling of people power, an inner sense of peaceful power within a group that cannot be shaken? The police stepped aside for us, and we walked on, mouths dry, lips cracking, and my own heart bursting with gratitude and love for our togetherness. At the end of the day, and we had all been up since 3 a.m., we found ourselves relaxing in the cooling waters of a small river. We soaked in the memories and emotions of the day's work. What was it like to face power in the way of peace and nonviolence with a strong sense of togetherness? I think of the many young people around the world, many of them indigenous, who are in this struggle to protect the earth, the land, the water. Many have been killed as they come up against powerful counterforces. None of us faced the risk of death on that day, I recognize, and for many of us there, we have not faced centuries of destruction to our culture and way of life, land and language. Yet we were still connected in the struggle, sharing the same dream, laughing in the same way to ease the day's tensions, releasing tears of relief, anger, and success, fiercely loving this same earth, splashing in a river in the same way, sending sprays of hope to the 4 directions. As we go from here, let us bring to mind that lonely puzzle piece on Pennsylvania Avenue. In what bigger picture do each of us belong? What is our essential role in the ongoing path of peace building? With whom will we link arms and walk alongside? Recipients of the Peace Awards, I thank you for touching me with your stories, with your action, with the ways that you listen to suffering, let it go into yourselves, and come together to take action. I will carry those stories with me to share with others that I meet. I also want to share much gratitude to Margaret Fisher and the committee of Herndon Friends meeting and of the Student Peace Awards for extending the invitation to me to be part of this event. To the groups that have supported this event for all of these years, to those of you who are running around doing the logistics today, that's very important, and to the family and friends of the recipients of the awards. And I would like to end with this poem called Awaken by Naima Penniman of Climbing Poetry and Soul Fire Farm, an Afro-Indigenous centered community farm, Soul Fire Farm. This is called Awaken. We are in the wake of a great shifting. Awaken. You better free your mind before they illegalize thought. There's a war going on. The first casualty was truth, and it's inside you. The universe is counting on our belief that faith is more powerful than fear, And in that, the shifting moment, we'll all remember why we're here. In a world where you're assassinated for having a dream, and the rich spend $9 billion a year to control our ideas, and visions are televised so things aren't what they seem. We gotta believe in a world where there's room enough for everyone to breathe. 'Cause reality is made up of 7 billion thoughts who made up their minds of what's real and what's not. So I stopped believing in the false idols of war. Greed and hate is not worth my faith. My mind's dedicated to justice. My soul is devoted to love. And love is God. And God is truth. And truth is you, and you are me, and I am everything, and everything is nothing, and nothing is the birthplace of creation, and transformation is possible, and you are proof. We were born right now for a reason. We can be whatever we give ourselves the power to be. And right now we need daydreamers, gatekeepers, bridge builders, soul speakers, web weavers, light bearers, food growers, wounded healers, trailblazers, life lovers, peacemakers. Give what you most deeply desire to give. Every moment you are choosing to live or you are waiting. Why would a flower hesitate to open? Now is the only moment. Raindrop let go, become the ocean. Possibility is as wide as the space we create to hold it. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Kirsten, for showing us the courage and passion that it takes to be a professional peace builder and painting that picture of what it might be like to follow that path. Thank you so much.